All right. Well, I'm going to guess maybe Stacy P that's on here maybe is the parent or supporter as well. So welcome. This is our first ever virtual parent and supporter information session. I'm Kim Blosser. I'm president here at the college, and we are very grateful to have you join us. You know, this year we've had quite a few firsts this year. Normally, we'd all be meeting in person. We'd be helping students find classrooms. We'd be seeing all these new faces on campus, how we're used to doing this, helping them.
You somehow muted.
It said the host muted me. Sorry. I don't know how that happened, but.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Button.
Well, I'll go back to where I think I was. So, but anyway, this year's different. You know, we all know it's different. It's different if you're out shopping. It's different if you are working somewhere, you know, in your workplace, things look a little bit different. But what I wanted to make sure to tell you is we have spent a tremendous amount of time working on converting our student support services. We still have outstanding faculty and outstanding programs. We have worked on how to convert those to make them work for as many student needs as we can. Back in the spring when COVID first hit, I did several information sessions. You know, we had to go online when we did the shutdown. And so I did several sessions with students to ask them what works, what doesn't work, what's really stressful for you in this environment. And what I heard from students is many of them really like that in-person instruction. They like having a teacher sit in front of them or stand in front of them and give them the instruction that they need. And it was hard for them to go into a virtual classroom space. I heard also some of them struggle with technology. They may not have Wi-Fi at home. We know, I know that Amber, as an example, is sitting in the office doing this now because she doesn't have great, reliable Wi-Fi where she lives. And she's in Frederick County. So you can be not in a very rural area and still struggle having internet access. And for some, it's a cost issue. And so we tried to figure out how we could have for the fall semester a way to meet as many of those student needs as we could possibly meet. And so what we've been able to do is look at how we could still provide some of that, what we consider sort of a face-to-face instruction, but just at a distance, how we could make sure we are going to keep our students and our employees as safe as we can possibly make it, but still provide them with the instruction that they're going to need as they move forward. So as an example, some of our programs we aren't able to do completely at a distance. So if you want to be a phlebotomist, at some point you have to do sticks on a person to learn to do that skill. If you want to be a welder, at some point you have to weld to be able to do that. So what we've done is we looked at all of our programs and determined what could we do at a distance and what would still need to be in person. And then anything that we're doing in person, there are, as you all know, cleaning protocols. There's much smaller class sizes. We are mandating masks. And so if students are in the buildings, they do have to wear masks, the same as our employees do. So we have tried to make sure through our plan that we address the safety concerns, that we have addressed the cleaning issues that we have to make sure we do on a very regular basis in between every single class that comes on our campus. And then we've looked at ways to do classes at a distance so that a student who wants to have as close to an in-person class as they can have someone just like we're sitting here having this conversation, and we can have ask questions and it's live, that we can be able to do that from an instructional standpoint as well as meet those students' needs who really can't do it in a live format. You know, what's happened with some of our students, and I'm sure you all know, is that even students who used to be able to take a class a certain way, because their kids are now home from school, maybe they're doing their school virtual, if they're in a K through 12 setting, their whole life has changed and how they're having to work with their own families. Maybe their job has changed. They might be teleworking now. And so things they used to be able to do, they've had to change too. So we had to make sure we offered a wide range of classes to meet those needs. I know that you're going to hear, and I didn't check with everybody else to see what they were telling you. So if you get told this more than once, it probably won't hurt. But we do have many technology options for our students this semester in terms of being able to check out computers, being able to come on campus and just park in the parking lot and get Wi-Fi access if they need that. We do have our computer labs open. So if they can't and they need to come in and sit in the classroom, we can have a computer lab open and available for them. But we're trying to figure out a way, as I said, to make sure we're keeping our employees and our students as safe as we possibly can, but at the same time providing them access to all of that during this COVID crisis. You know, I thought the other day, and I'll just share this with you, many of you might not know this, but 50 years ago in September is when we opened our doors for the very first time. So Lord Fairfax is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. And, you know, when you look back and you read back on what was happening when they were still literally trying to get the building ready for students to arrive that first day. There was wiring still going on. There was an RV that they used to park and register students. And so, you know, there have been other times that they've had to figure out how to get students into classes under not so ideal situations. But I thought, you know, we've been doing this for 50 years and we've provided excellent education. We have changed so many people's lives by being able to get this start. And this year won't be any different. It's going to be a challenge in some ways. It's going to be different. But we are committed to making sure that your student is able to get the help they need, is able to get the classes that they need, and we will help them through the whole process. So I just wanted to tell you all, please talk with your student, see if they're having challenges. If they are, please reach out to us. Please encourage them to reach out to their advisor, reach out to their faculty member. You're going to meet some folks on this that they can absolutely reach out to. Let us know how we can help. I mean, the last thing we want is for them to get frustrated and not be able to finish their classes. That is not at all our goal. Our goal is to have every one of our students succeed. And I'll tell you too, you can certainly reach out. Today I was on our website and we've initiated the new chat feature. And I thought, oh, I'm going to chat with somebody. So I clicked on it and said hi, and I said, who am I talking to? And I ended up talking with one of our employees. Her name's Winona. And so I didn't really have a question to ask, but I wanted to see how it works, and it works great. It's a very easy process, and you can use it as well to ask a question. We certainly always want to work with your student sometime, on their questions, but if you have a question, then reach out to us. We're here to help you as much as we're here to help your students. So please don't be afraid. Let us know how we can help. And please know that we do care about each and every one of our students, and we want to make sure that they're successful. That is our goal. Their success is our number one priority. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Chris Coutts, and I think he's going to just share a little bit about instruction and some other stuff with you as well.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening. Kim provided a very good overview of what the academic program looks like and what some of the options are. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to say, in terms of planning and thinking through the semester ahead, as Kim said, we want to do everything we can to support our students, and then obviously our students' families and supporters as well. It's absolutely vital to us to get this right, and we've been working really hard to think through how to make this this semester and this experience as engaging and supportive for students, and especially for new students, as possible. So as Kim said, a lot of the classes that we're offering And particularly when you think, we call them transfer classes, but when you think of those classes that are in either general studies or in a degree that is designed to transfer to one of the universities, a lot, if not all of those classes this fall are offered virtually, which because of the situation, we've tried to make things just as safe as possible on campus. We've done that purposefully, but we've done it in lots of different ways. We know that students have been taking online classes for a long time now, and some of them love it, and frankly, some of them hate it. And we know that. But we know that for some students, they appreciate and enjoy the ability to go into a class in their own time and work through the resources, and that fits their learning style. So we've got those traditional classes. We, in our own kind of internal language, we call them the asynchronous classes, just because they're not real-time live like this session is. But we got a bunch of classes set up like that. But we've also purposefully designed a number of classes where there is interaction between the instructor and the students. Whenever possible, and we've worked very closely, the professors have done a lot of work to try to figure out how to make that interactive and engaging, but also optional or flexible, I guess is probably a better word, so that you can be there in person through this virtual lens, through Zoom, or there are other methods as well. But we also know, as Kim mentioned, there are some technology issues for some people and access, and so we're also working to record those interaction and those lectures to give people options. So we encourage people to look very closely at the notes when you sign up for a class, and you look at the way the course is set up. You will see it'll tell you whether the class is online, but it'll also tell you if there is a meeting, if there are days and times set aside, and if your student, your friend is signed up for a class that has a meeting day and time, look carefully at that. Look carefully at that note, because what that indicates is that is when that instructor is available real time for that student. We've got a lot of students who have asked for that, and are looking forward to that interaction. But we want to make sure that everyone knows that there's this range of different options. And then finally, as Kim said, and for some classes, particularly in the health professions, but there are some science lab classes, like organic chemistry and some others, where it's just that interaction and those hands-on skills are super important. So we've designed those on campus in a very safe way. So there are a number of those applied classes and labs happening on campus, and we've gone through a lot of work trying to design those as safely as possible. I will say one more thing about the academic program. As I said, please read those notes carefully, and if your student, your friend, your family member is in a class that they feel is not what they signed up for, not what they're expecting, the person who's following me, I believe, is Amber, and reach out and talk with the professor and as early as possible, because there may be other options. But one of the things we always try to reach out and tell students when it comes to coursework is there's a period of time, sometimes it's just a couple of days, there's a period of time when we can be super flexible and really help them find the right class. And if there are other options, we'll work with students. As you get later into week 2 and further on, students get locked in, and it becomes harder not only for them but for us to be flexible and supportive. And we want to be that. We want to help as much as possible. So that this first week coming up, or if it's a 12-week class that starts in September, please pay attention on those first couple of days. Encourage, support your student in paying attention to what it is that they're in, and reach out to the professors, reach out to us, and let us help you. That's what we're here for. So that's a little bit about the academic overview, and I can answer if there are any other questions about the academic program as a whole. We keep hoping, like everybody else, that the pandemic subsides, things return to normal or close to normal. Should that happen, we've designed plans and programs in place where we work with students to transition courses back to campus. It's too early to think about that as hypothetical, but I just want to let you know that we've tried to think through and be ready for every possible situation this fall. In terms of our professors and our faculty, they're all ready to go. In terms of the transfer classes, all our faculty are master's or doctorate prepared. They are as good, and I might say even better than some of the instructors and professors you might find at other universities. And I say that because what we offer are, with the smaller class sizes, the focus on the teaching and learning is truly valuable, and that's something that professor colleagues at universities are not always able to offer. So I want to let you know their instructors are ready, they're qualified, they know how to teach online, and ready to go. Finally, I also want to talk a little bit about our who we are as a college and our relationship within the state. As I mentioned, we have highly qualified faculty. We're accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, the Commission on Colleges, that's SAC-COC, to operate in the Southern region. Because of that, we have very close relationships, not only within Virginia, but kind of regionally, to really support our students, either as they move into the workforce and get a job, get skills, or if they transfer. Part of the being in the state of Virginia, we're part of the community college system. We have guaranteed arrangements, guaranteed agreements with all 15 public universities in the state. Now, the terms and conditions on those agreements do vary, so look closely. But we enjoy a very close relationship with the universities and with our sister colleges across the state, and we're set up to help students move through and transfer. And so with that, I'm going to and as I said, a lot of those relationships, those guaranteed admissions agreements, are with the community college system. We're one of 23 colleges. We also have a lot of program articulations, we call them. They're just agreements with different universities for different programs. So we've got several with Shepherd University, that's local, and Shenandoah University, and there are lots more to explore as well. So I wanted to let you know a little bit about those, because they also offer another pathway for students as well. So with that,
before you pivot, I think there might have been a question.
Okay, let me see.
I think Janice, did you have a question?
Yeah, just one brief question. It's a little specific, but you could answer it in a general way. I was just wondering how the business about testing or exams are going to be handled in this technical world? You know, I know the professor will direct it specifically to each class, but how did you guys wrap your hands around how how all the students are going to take exams?
Yeah.
It's just a question.
Very good question, and as you said, it is specific to different classes because as we work through this, what you find is for example, certain mathematics classes, certain science classes, their testing requirements are more traditional in that some of those classes definitely have exams built in. Those, you know, as we think of comprehensive exams and assessments, and for those, we are using technology. There are actually two pieces of technology that work together. The one is called the Respondus, the lockdown browser. And Carol, I might have to phone a friend here with Caroline because I know we were looking at it. Respondus also has a testing product, which is basically part of monitoring students live. So for those specific classes that do require that, and we've asked questions about, is it absolutely necessary? Because we know not everyone has the ability to sit in front of a camera like we're doing tonight and take a test. And that's what a lot of these proctoring solutions require. So there are certain classes with that requirement. We do have, we've asked the instructors to put that very clearly in the syllabus if that is a requirement, that there will be proctored assessments, and we've got the technology to do that. For a lot of other classes, though, probably the majority of the classes, we've encouraged and are thinking about assessment a little bit differently. There are ways to put together portfolios, ways to write essays, to do some critical thinking. That doesn't work for every class, but I think there are other ways other than just sitting down and taking a test. So we've explored all of that, and that's how we're kind of wrapping our head around it. The final thing we're doing, which sounds a little old-fashioned, but we have some research to back it up, is we're asking students to, each time they do something, to sign that academic honesty pledge. And we've the research indicates that if they do that right before the exam, at least it doesn't stop everyone, it doesn't stop every bad actor, but at least it puts that concept in front of mind. So that's wonderful.
Okay, so in other words, depending on the class, there's a technology feature that allows them to participate using the computer, and that is the parameter around answering the exam, answering it honestly, and so forth.
Yeah.
And then I guess the professor would instruct whether they could have a reference material or whether they just do this straight in a timed setting by respondus.
Yes.
I guess the respondus. And then in other classes, in other words, so do you have it both ways, where at some point they might have to go in and actually do an exam live, depending on the class, or depending on what comes down as to how the assessment is going to be, gleaned to determine whether they've passed or so forth?
Correct.
Is it?
Yes.
It's just being taken in a way, because we don't know what the end result of COVID is. It's going to be introduced when it comes necessary, and then the student would follow whatever they have to do based on what their class requires. Either do it online at an appointed time, or I guess come in to do it live if that's what the class, that's what it's going for. Okay.
Yeah, and just
Whenever
that's correct. One
Okay.
piece of clarification, or at least assurance that I can provide, is no one, we're not forcing anyone to come into a testing center and sit in front of a proctor and take an exam. So there's no requirement to do that. That may be practically what works for a student, and we want to offer that. We want to offer the ability, if you're not able to sit and do it at home because of internet connections, access, we want to offer computer labs, use of the testing center in safe ways. You know, we have to book time. But I just want to make that clarification that's
Okay.
it's not a forced requirement that somebody come onto campus to take that test. There are alternative ways of doing that, and yet we provide that as a service if it's
right. And it also, if the student has, like, my daughter is coming in with an IEP, so whatever her accommodations need to be, like, you know, I don't think she has many accommodations as it is, and that's not really my concern. I just wanted to know if, in designing these different ways of using technology, if the testing procedures are incorporated in the course, such that you're able to, so that my daughter would know exactly what she has to do, or let's say speak up within that short time frame if she needs an accommodation that she feels she cannot fairly pass an exam by doing it at home. If she needs something else, then we'll cross that bridge when she gets to it. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to, you answered me adequately.
Yeah. And on the testing piece, I'm going to invite Caroline Wood, or actually Amber is I think Amber's up next as well, but it is worth spending a minute talking about disability accommodations, because there's a process for that, and that's
right. That wasn't my concern, though. I'm just saying, just in all different ways, you know, because my daughter's accommodations are minor, so I'm not really that concerned of that specifically, but just all the different kinds of students, as long as we have our arms wrapped around how, from a technical standpoint or from a live standpoint, you glean the information, the assessment information on them. Because so that we can make these decisions quickly and know beforehand how they're going to measure up to the exam when it comes, you know, when it comes around.
Yeah, very good question. Okay.
So I'll go on and take the baton from there, and I'll start off by talking a little bit about services for students, because you know, bringing up things like accommodations for students, I think those are that's an area that we've really spent a lot of time thinking about and trying to make sure that in all of the things that we're doing, we don't create one-size-fits-all types of services. So, you know, in terms of testing, we've really worked a lot with faculty to explore alternative forms of assessment, because testing, in all honesty, is only one way of measuring knowledge. So, you know, we've looked at other things there. In terms of academic accommodations, we are still providing the same accommodations for students with disabilities that we would have in the pre-COVID era. Although sometimes there are those tweaks that we've had to make related to the technology that's available, or the delivery of the class. Or, you know, honestly, in terms of disabilities, making certain groups of students at higher risk of COVID. So those are all things that we factored in. I'll spend a couple of minutes just talking about our student services overall, and then share a couple of themes that I think are really important for parents to think about. But just so that you're aware, we do have really robust student services at the college. All of our students are assigned an academic advisor. Their academic advisor essentially case manages them as a student as they go through their degree. So their advisor will be the person who provides a number of services to them, including registering for classes. But the advisor is also the person who follows up if the student ever hits any trouble in a class and a faculty member raises an academic alert. That academic alert will typically be some kind of concern. I'm concerned about the student's progress in the class. I'm concerned that the student's in danger of failing. I'm recommending that the student reach out for tutoring. Our academic advisors are copied on all of those alerts, and they'll be the first one to reach out to the student to say, hey, I see that you're struggling in your anatomy class. Let's talk about services we can put in place to support you with that. Our services are assigned to students in a couple of different ways. Some of our academic advisors advise by degree area. Other of our academic advisors advise students that are part of different groups at the college. So a student who is a military veteran or using a spouse or a parent's military benefits will work with our veterans advisors. Students who have been part of the foster care system will work with our Great Expectations advisor. Students who are first-generation college students who meet certain low-income guidelines or who have a disability might work at the Middletown campus with our TRIO advisor, and similar students at the Fauquier campus might meet with their Path to Success advisor. We have disability services offices. Our advisors, our counselors for those areas work with students on accommodations and work with the student on their academic advising. We take a very holistic approach to how we do advising here at the college. For students who are English language learners or international students, we have an advisor for that area as well. So all of those advisors really work as a team and provide sometimes very similar services and sometimes very specialized services to the groups that they serve. My advice to you as a parent is when you may see your student struggling, feeling like they're hitting a wall, definitely their academic advisor should be their go-to. That's the person who's going to be building a relationship with them and kind of following them throughout their time at the college. Some of the other services that we offer, obviously, you know, I'm sure you're all aware of our financial aid office. Our financial aid office deals with federal and state financial aid, as well as LFCC scholarships. If your student has not applied for an LFCC scholarship, that scholarship application is available and they can apply anytime all year long. The priority deadline is to apply in the spring semester before March for the following year, but we accept scholarship applications at any point. If you have not helped your student complete a FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, you can definitely think about going to FAFSA.gov and helping your student fill out that FAFSA. That's going to be a consideration for any state and federal grant money that the student doesn't have to pay back. It's also how they're considered for student loans as well. So if your family hasn't done that, I would recommend that you think about that. One of the big things that we're trying to really create a robust experience in a virtual world is with our student life. We have a really active group of student clubs and organizations. We have a club, we have a student government, we have several different honor societies that students can get involved with. We have organizations like Rotaract that are very community services oriented. We have a lot of themed clubs that students have created just because it's something that they're interested in. So we have a club called Diversity, and it's a K-pop dance group. They work together and choreograph different dances. We have another group that's very interesting called BOND. It's the Bureau of Neurodiversity. And that club is was started up by some of our students who have autism, and they wanted to create a supportive space for students who not only have autism but deal with any kind of sensory issues or have any kind of neurodiverse diagnosis, as a support system to one another and an encouragement to one another. That group actually worked with us to create a sensory room on campus at on the Middletown campus, and that's something that's available to students. Our student services group, really tries to work with the student from the point of application, with our admissions and enrollment services, through the advising, through the student life, and then also with some of our support services like our tutoring center. We do offer free tutoring, and we have on-staff tutors that kind of tutor during typical work hours, somewhere between the 9 to 7 p.m. range. And we also have an online service that provides tutoring called BrainFuse. And BrainFuse is a 24-hour tutoring service that students can access through their LFCC account. And like I said, both of those are free services. We offer a ton of tutoring in terms of paper writing support, a ton of math tutoring, a ton of science. Those are probably our highest demand areas. And we'll be talking to your students about those resources in a lot of different ways this semester. We did talk a little bit about our testing center, and our typical testing experience is looking a little bit different right now. We are not doing a lot of bulk testing in our testing center. Most of the testing has happened the way Dr. Coutts discussed it earlier, so I won't go into that in a whole lot of detail. Some of the services that we provide on campus are services that are designed to do some wraparound supports for students. So I will mention that we have a food pantry on campus. If a student is here and they are hungry, they can have access to our food pantry. They don't need to qualify. They don't need to bring in documentation. If food is an issue for our students, then we're going to support them by giving them food. We also have a student support team. And that student support team is a group of kind of interdisciplinary folks around the college that come together, and we respond to anytime a part of our community says, I'm concerned about a student's well-being. If you look on our homepage, you will always see a tab on that homepage that says see something, say something. And there are a lot of things that can be reported through see something, say something. In fact, you'll hear a little bit more about that in just a minute. But one of the things that can be reported is I'm concerned about somebody's well-being. A student can report, a faculty member, a staff member, a parent, any part of the LFCC community at all. We welcome you to submit something when you're concerned. And when we get one of those reports, a member of our team will reach out to the student and offer support, offer resources, and make sure that we're getting students connected with what they need, so that their academic needs and all of those personal needs that impact their academics are looked at as well. I mentioned a couple of other things that I think are important for parents to be aware of. One of them is FERPA. We've probably all signed off on a HIPAA agreement at some point in time in a doctor's office, so we're all familiar with that Privacy Act as it comes to our health records. With educational records, those are protected by FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And essentially what FERPA does for the student is it protects access to their student records. So there are a lot of things that we must be careful about when we are talking to parents, because your student now, as a college student, owns the rights to who has access to their records and who doesn't. The student is able to sign a release and release access to additional individuals, and that would give a parent access to student records. But one of the things that we do at the college is we're trying to help our students to go from, oftentimes, high school students, sometimes they're already adults and this applies less, but for those high school students that are coming to college for the first time, they're entering adulthood. And we are working with those students to develop that independence and that grit and resiliency and ability to advocate for themselves. And in fact, one of the parents who joined earlier and I were talking a little bit about this idea of, you know, helping them to grow into their own and to become responsible adults. And so part of how we handle that is through this idea of the student owning the rights to their information and being able to say who gets access to what. And we encourage students then to have these really important conversations with their parents, because you are oftentimes the biggest support they have. For our older students who might be married or might have kids, it might look a little bit different, and we'll be encouraging them to have those other kinds of conversations. But keeping really open lines of communication are important. And helping, one of the biggest things that you can help, we were in another meeting earlier and one of our vice presidents said, I can't believe I'm still telling my daughter, who's old enough to be a Marine, she has to check her freaking email. And I think we all laughed, because anybody who has a kid knows that you're like, for real, I have to tell you this? It's one of those adulting skills that we try to help students to develop, because we know they're coming up in this culture of texting, of quick access to everything, of chat bots and all of these things. But we also know we're preparing them for a workplace where they're going to need to be independent and responsible for these things like checking email. Sometimes I wish there were a world where email wasn't a work responsibility. But the fact of the matter is that's not the case for most of us in employment. So one of the best things you can do is tell your students check their email like all the time, regularly, you know, more than once a semester, more like, you know, once a day or once every other day. We share so much important information, and much of what we're communicating with students is FERPA protected information that we can't send to a private email and we can't text the student about. So making sure that they're looking out for things like their tuition bill in their email, or FAFSA deadlines in their email, trying to help them to be part of that culture of self-responsibility and checking on those things. So I think I've gone over time. So I'm going to pause for a second and just see if there are any quick questions before we pass the torch. All right, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to pass the torch to Officer Higgins, who's one of our police officers at the college, and let him share a little about campus safety.
Hello there. Everybody
Hi.
hear me? All right, we're good.
Yes, we're good to go.
So what all do you want me to go over as far as the safety part? Do we want a whole see something, say something? Do we want active shooter?
I think if you can just talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that we have on campus. Some are a little more relevant to when we have more students physically on campus, like walks to cars and those, but more about threat assessment and how we handle those kinds of issues.
All right. Most of the times we'll get a form from the See Something, Say Something that'll pass down to us. The threat assessments, sometimes we'll have students who's either expressed perhaps harm to themselves or made a statement because they failed the test. Or I've had a couple of students with the ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend who go to school also with the party in question. So we get the threat assessment, and we usually, one of the officers, myself or Sergeant Dominguez, will have a talk with both parties. We try to determine on if it's a relevant threat that we need to handle. Sometimes it's turned over to the dean. Most of the time we've handled most of them with just finding out what the problem is, because 9 times out of 10 there's an underlying problem. It's not the fact that they actually want to hurt themselves or someone else. They're either they can't afford their tuition. Some of them feel like they're failing their classes. Some feel like they're outcasts because they're not as smart as their other classmates. Things of that nature. And like Ms. Foltz stated, there's tons of support out there, and 9 times out of 10 we just have to point them in the right direction to give them that support or that help, and then they move on and succeed.
I think one other thing that I'll point out, and Officer Higgins, you can feel free to make sure I'm covering this correctly, but we do have campus police at our Middletown and Fauquier campus. There is a actual police department presence on campus via our campus police. In the evenings, typically after classes end, when we don't have students on campus, we do have security available on campus. But our campus police really take a very community policing approach, getting to know students, getting to talk to them, building relationships with them. And oftentimes it seems that tends to look a little bit different than you typically think of policing. These officers are people who know they're working with college students and who value that experience and value getting to know our students and building those relationships so that students know that they're a resource and aren't intimidated to reach out for help. And he mentioned our threat assessment team. We do have a threat assessment team that is very interdisciplinary. There are a lot of different people sitting in different areas of the college that come together whenever there is an issue that we are concerned about, a potential threat to the campus community. And, you know, as Officer Higgins says, our campus police investigate those and bring that information to our team, and our team goes through and really tries to kind of hash out whether there is a threat to the campus or not. I think we're very fortunate to say we don't have to deal with that incredibly often. Typically, it's a lot more minor things that we're dealing.
Right. We wear a lot of hats. We change tires. We unlock cars. We escort students after classes at night to their cars. We have a lot of students that take criminology, sociology, and they're looking for that judicial leadway. I've sat for hours answering questions about police academies, how you get your foot in the door, what are some of the good agencies to get started with. There's a lot of experience at the LFCC Police Department. 90% of us are former military, and we've retired from another police agency. So we bring a lot of experience to the table. But like Amber was saying, we know they're kids, and kids mess up, and we try to take them and be the secondary parent to them, instead of trying to lock people up and be like, it's against the law, you can't do this. We use it as lessons. So we teach lessons. It's a learning environment. So unless it's something severely criminal in manner, we use it as a learning tool. And like I said, we mentor these kids. There's a lot of, I still have kids from last semester. They bring me Black Rifle coffee because they see me drinking it in the morning, because we'd have those morning conversations about, hey, what do you think I should do? Should I do this or should I do that? So we wear a lot of hats, but we're here for the students, and we just try to keep them safe and try to lead them in the right direction.
Well, I think that pretty much sums up the information that we had planned to share with you today. But I will open the floor if you have other questions, or if our co-panelists or other staff members who have joined us today have anything they feel like they'd like to share as a final thought. Well, I'm going to take that as a sign we were pretty thorough.
I'll just say, Amber, thank you all for putting this together, and thank the parents that were able to attend. Thank you for trusting us to educate your students. We do take that very seriously. And so we do want you to reach out when you have questions. We want you to let us know what you need help with, and we are more than happy to answer your questions, whatever they might be.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to a great semester. Different semester, but great semester.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
You're welcome.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye, everyone. Good to see you,
Bye.
Mel.